All right. Field methods, notebook entries. What do you write in your notebook? And we're going to go over the first pages you should populate in your field notebook once you receive it. So let's get started. Page 1. Essential data you should put into your field notebook as soon as you receive it. So blank pages somewhere. You're going to start by writing page numbers on each page. In this case, page 1. And give it a title. This is your geology field notebook. Here we go. And the very, very first page is incredibly important. You need to make a statement about the importance of this notebook in case you lose it, because as you progress your various courses and classes, what will happen is that there's going to be some very important information on there for you to, complete a project or get a grade. And if you lose this field notebook, you lose half of your life. So write something like, this notebook contains important project information. If found, please return to the address below. Reward offered. It's a good idea to give at least a little bit of a reward in case you lose it. Much better than trying to recreate a lot of data you have collected. And of course, you need to put your address down there somewhere. Maybe a phone number, maybe an email address, whatever you feel comfortable with. That should be on page 1 of your notebook. Now, what happens in subsequent pages as we put them together? Well, let's look at page 2. Well, next page we're going to put up here. And that is your personal body data. Measurements you can do with your body. Your body is literally a meter stick, a scale of some sorts, and you to establish these measurement parameters. So one of them is your eye height, which seems interesting, and the other one is called your pace distance. So you won't forget those entries should be in the front of your notebook or when in the first pages. So what is the eye height? It is literally from the soles of your shoes up to eye level, to your eye height. And you need to measure this and enter that. How this is done, we can show in the following video. One of the built-in measurements you have is your eye height. How tall are you from the soles of your shoes up to the level of your eye? Now, best you measure this with 2 people. But if you don't have 2 people available, find a tall object like the post here behind me and wear shoes that you usually wear when you do field work, like in this case, my boots. What is my eye height? Because this will be a built-in measure, and especially when we use a Brunton instrument, we can level from our eye height across. That gives us the elevation at this point. So I better take my hat off to do that. And what I will do is I will come around here, and it's a little windy today, but I have strung up my tape against this post, as you can see. And what I will need to do is, of course, when this is nice and taut, is to bring myself all the way up against it and look straight and see where I'm ending up on that tape. And that would be my eye height. It looks like it's 5 feet and 11 inches in my case, if I have done that tape measure here correctly. Another way of getting the correct eye height of you, wearing the correct boots, of course, and a great exercise with a Brunton is to use a Brunton's built-in leveling system. What I mean by this one, if you open the Brunton, you will see that it has several leveling bubbles in there. What I'm interested in right now is the leveling bubble here on top. That is the inclinometer this is built in. I'm going to set this leveling bubble to 0. I do this in this particular Brunton by moving the back switch here back and forth until my front reads 0, which is about right there, as you can see. Now, how you are gonna level and use the system to get a actual elevation? Well, you need to have a straight floor between you and the object. But what I will do is I will use the Brunton to sight, here's my little sight things, in a straight line while keeping this bubble level to an object in the distance that has the same height from the floor as I do. Now, how do you do this? How do you watch that bubble and at the same time take in the sight? This is what the mirror is for. You can fold it in, and then inside the mirror you can see the bubble as you sight through this hole. Now the trick is to keep this whole thing straight while you look at the bubble and keep it level. I need to tilt it here a little bit. There we go. And then find the spot on the object in the distance as you hold out your arm. And then you can travel toward it, and if you have that spot, you can actually put a little marker there or a little nail and see if you can hit it again by keeping the bubble level. And then when you measure the distance from the floor up to where you put your final line, the final mark, after you've done that a few times, that should be your eye height. It's highly accurate actually with the system, as you can watch both the bubble and shoot a straight line of sight. Of course, the easiest way without putting marks on the object would be to kind of affix a ruler or a tape measure down there, and you can now actually read off of where you are at. All right, once you have your eye height established, once of course you need to enter it. So page 2, or something like this, eye height and pace distance will go on page 2 in your notebook as you establish those. So the eye height, tell a little bit how you measured it, direct measurement by friend with a tape measure, maybe something like that. And then you write it down and underline it. So let's say for this particular person, the eye height is 5 feet 4 inches or 1.63 meters. It's actually a good idea to do it in 2 units, in the British and the metric unit together. All right, pace distance. What is that? Well, let's watch a video together that explains a little bit about how pace distance is established. Well, one important measurement that you have on your body is the eye height, of course, and the pace or step distances. Let me explain you how you establish your pace distances. What you need is, of course, your feet and your surveyor's tape. First, let's lay out the surveyor's tape on a straight line. A 50 or in this case 60-foot distance should be good enough. When you do pace measurements, many people make this mistake when they try to measure distances by pacing in the yard by doing something like that. You're making really, really large strides. That will not work, because when we pace in the field, we should have a regular step that we can hike some distances and keep count of it. Doing that, I don't know how you will hike uphill or down the Grand Canyon by doing paces consistently that are larger than your regular step. So when you do pacing or step in, make sure you use your regular normal gait as you would when you hike somewhere in the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So for me, I get 12 paces or double steps for 60 feet. And you can do the calculations, of course. 60 feet divided by 12 makes each one of my paces 5 feet. So my pace is 5 feet. My step, which is half of a pace, would then be 2.5 feet. Again, to mitigate error, it is best to do your paces 3 times and take an average. This way, error mitigation is complete and you can trust your pace distances quite well. Okay, we've done the pace distance. What do we enter? Well, as explained in the video, you should do it 3 times and take an average. So let's say pace distance established in variable terrain, which might be a good idea to not just do it on a piece of asphalt, but actually through hills and valleys and maybe uphill, downhill, get a little bit variation in there. All right, so let's say pace 1, a 50-meter distance, you use 66 paces. So write it down in a way that it can be understood by somebody else who might take over your notebook. So 50 meters divided by 66 paces gives me 1.52 meters for each of your paces, of 5.0 feet, right? If you divide this by 2, these numbers, then you get the step distance, which is a single step. Double step is, of course, a pace. So you write that down as well. Well, you do the measurement 2 more times in maybe other terrains. Here's another one. Let's say you laid out a 25-meter course, used 40 paces for that one. That gives you a little bit of a different pace distance. You can see that here, a little bit of a different a step distance as well. And you do it a 3rd time, getting 3 numbers. So it varies a little bit, but as you go through larger and larger distances, of course, averages will mitigate the error, and it can be rather accurate. So at the end, at the bottom, you should take an average of all of this, right? My average pace, 1.48 meters or 4.8 feet. My average step is 0.74 meters or 2.4 feet. You write this down, underline it. So that is the distance you would use if you used your feet to do measurements in the field. That's your pace distance. Now, use this, whatever's underlined, for eye height application. Whenever eye height is needed, you would use that height or this distance. And, of course, use this down there, whatever's underlined, right? Use this for pace or step distance application. Both of them you will have as we progress with this course. Okay, what about page 3? Well, one thing you should put in your notebook is some kind of an index. Basically, you leave a page blank. You can populate it something like this. This is your page 3, right? Call it the index, right? And what do we do in the index? Well, page 1 was the address data. That's where the notebook goes back. Number 2 is my eye height and my pace, right? Page 3, it's the index. So leave a little blank. You may even leave 2 pages blank. Call this page 4, and maybe you start at page 5. So when you need to find something quickly in your field notebook, you have a ever adjusted index that tells you where something is found. It also helps me, or helps every other geologist that reads your field notebook, to see where I need to go. For example, if I want to see an exercise you have done, well, on which page is it? So I don't have to flip through to 20 pages or so that you might have populated. I can see, oh, it starts at page 15, and I can go right to it. So you continue this one, you populate the first few pages as entries are added as you do your field work with that field notebook. And that sort of gives you an overview of the first few pages that should be populated in your field notebook.